Do Superman. Hey everybody, it's your girl PJamma with PJamma Life. Missed it again. And today we have a pretty good lineup, different things for us to watch. Ah, there he is. So why don't we introduce our fellows? David, the guru of Star Wars. Say hey to the people.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to tonight's show. I hope you have a good time. Well, I had a blast watching these shows this week, and I can't wait to talk to you about them.
And our pal, our buddy, the guy with all the knowledge of all things Marvel and sci-fi. Say hey to the people, Pat.
Hey everybody, glad to see y'all here.
All right. So today we have a pretty good lineup. We're going to talk about Dave Chappelle's The Closer, as well the movie Mute, Addams Family 2, and Impeachment. So pretty good lineup this week. Interesting batch. So let's take a look at our first selection, which is Dave Chappelle's final special for Netflix, The Closer. Uh-oh. There we go.
All the questions you might have had about all these jokes I've said in the last few years, I hope to answer tonight. But I'm very invested in the gender construct, personally, because I'm a man with kids and a wife. And this does not mean that I feel like another point of view can't exist. And she said, I don't need you to understand me. I said, what? She said, I just need you to believe that I'm having a human experience. And when she said it, the whole crowd kind of gasped. And I gave her the Fight Club look. I said, I believe you, bitch. Because she didn't say anything about pronouns. She didn't say anything about me being in trouble. She said, just believe I'm a person and I'm going through it. And oh, I believe you because it takes one to know one.
Okay, what did you all think? Start with you, Pat.
You know, I've seen the hubbub about this with many of the I don't know, many of the personalities and influencers and what have you. It was Dave Chappelle being Dave Chappelle. I mean, it's like people getting upset with Snoop Dogg when he came to KU for late night and he had people like pretend to be strippers on poles. I mean, it's like you didn't even know what Snoop Dogg was. And it's like you don't even know what Dave Chappelle's about. I mean, he's going to say stuff that's controversial.
Mm-hmm.
But, just at the end of it, it was funny. I laughed. There's a lot of stuff that's pretty funny. And, I don't think he was coming after anybody for all the stuff that we've seen. I thought his humor was, humor is always going to be a little bit edgy if it's good. I mean, Lenny Bruce didn't get arrested because he was telling, knock jokes. And he was pushing the envelope, and Bill Hicks and all these other comedians that I've watched over the years, they're going to push the envelope. They're going to say some stuff that's not going to be well received by everybody. But, you look back, George Carlin was pretty edgy too. I mean, all these the great comics always do have an edge to them. So to say that to everybody to key off on this one little bit, and to be honest, I didn't find it that offensive. I have two transgendered nephews, so I'm invested in that community, but I was not offended. So, but overall, the jokes are good. It was Dave Chappelle, man. Dave Chappelle is always funny, so I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. David, what did you think?
And to be honest, maybe I live under a rock. I did not realize this battle between the transgender community and Dave Chappelle prior to coming to this to the special. A lot of the times, comedy comes from pain, and comedy comes from sometimes a meanness. The other kind of the flip side of pain. I didn't think his jokes, I'll knock on wood here, I didn't think that his jokes were overly nasty or derogatory towards the transgender community, at least in this episode, because he talked about how his experiences with them. But I was reminded, because I think there's a level of consistency in how people speak. So if I said something racist, but or that's perceived to be racist, comes across as racist, whether I meant it to be or not, intentions are the way that the pathway to hell, I suppose. But if I get kind of attacked for that, then I say, well, yeah, I didn't mean that. I mean, I have many black friends, and that's like everybody kind of rolls their eyes at that. One of the things that he said in trying to justify his position was, I have transgender friends, and kind of culminating at the end of this episode with the stand-up comedian that had been a part of his act, and who'd had I don't want to call this spoilers, but had a tragic end to this individual's life too. Very moving, powerful things like, don't hate me, but I've set up this college fund, etc. There's a lot of conversation that we're having in America and across the world about terminology and what that means. I thought it was a good special. I thought it was interesting perspective, and it shows though how the attacked or the perceived attacker can also be the perceived victim at times. People coming up to your car and criticizing what you do. So I was kind of moved by it. He's human. I didn't leave thinking that he was all victim. I didn't think he was all bad. But a frail human being like all of us, who has a perspective that is not politically correct, and trying to balance that out on the liberal left of how you deal with that. Since Dave Chappelle doesn't look like me and doesn't sound like me, it's a little tougher to see like how that whole group will cancel him or not cancel him, etc. But but the show was provocative. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and so I am in his community. But I did have some issues with the special, because I think that he was dead on correct about how the media will take something that happens to Black people and kind of minimize it, and when someone says something about the gay community, they're canceled. I mean, his example of the baby was a really good example. The baby murdered somebody. Walmart, a fan who came up to him. It's an interesting go back story. And the machine protected him, right? I mean, he had a good run and was about to become like super huge, but then made some homophobic comments in his act and canceled. So I think there's something to what he's saying about the treatment of Blacks in the media, and the LGBT power community. And I think where he has some difficulty, because when I watched the special, I was kind of like, I think he's not evolved in his act, right? And so some of the things he says are not kind of for today's time, where people are today. And that whole stuff about turf, I did not like. I was like, okay, that's some other kind of mess going on out there that I don't agree with. And I think Dave misses out on intersectionality, which is the intersection of Black women and queerness, Black feminism, and LGBTQ, and some of these issues intersect. And if you go and look at some of that information, he misses in what he says is how people can take what he says and uses that as justification to continue their homophobic views. And he misses the because he is the GOAT, right? He's one of the greatest of all time. He's got Emmys, he's got Tonys, he's got Grammys, he's almost an EGOT. And he, I think, didn't rightfully think about what he's saying and how it might impact particularly Black trans people, and how they may suffer more because of what he's saying with homophobic people. So, I mean, transphobic people. Well, I guess homophobic people too. So I just kind of felt like I wanted him to have a more evolved viewpoint on this issue. And I get he kind of brought up the Daphne Dornan, that's her name. And what he misses is that there's a high rate of suicide and violence against trans people. And so that what happened is all too common in the trans community. And so, words matter. Words have power. And he's one of the most powerful comics out there. So, I just felt like he could do better. He could do better. But I think he was dead on in talking about how race, and there's an issue of race and the LGBT community, even within their own community, there's issues. So there should be more discussion on this, because this is something that we need to work through and kind of come to an understanding, so that people aren't, like some of them have said, I just want to live. Not like I don't want to be above, I don't want to be below. I just want to be able to live my life. And I have known several trans people in my life who are beautiful, wonderful people. And, there's a lot of pressures and things they have to face. So we all just got to be better. And like Daphne said, and that he pointed out in the clip, just let them have their own experience. Mind your own business. It doesn't just leave people alone and worry about you and your family. Stop worrying about what everybody else calls themselves or does or anything. Take care of you and yours. You don't have time then to talk about anybody else. So, David, you look like you want to say something.
Well, and I hear what you're saying, and I really agree with it. I think that there needs to be, especially, if America is free, it's you go and do and live how you want to live. I mean, we don't need to be paying attention to what's going on in someone else's bedroom or in somebody else's life. And I think we need to meet people where they are and be as respectful to them. I think that there probably are, there are some legitimate issues, I think, in terms of this is the race issues that you bring up. That's true. And the high rates of violence of trans women of color and such that goes on. But there's some conversations and J.K. Rowling and feminism and what women haven't had the vote for 100 years. So I think there's some issues and challenges there in trying to balance out the needs of everybody. But just try and treat folks right. If you do that, treat them like your neighbor, things will be a lot better.
Yep. Pat, you look like you wanted to say something.
No, there's going to be growing pains. I mean, this is all new to a lot of people. I mean, the acceptance levels are so much higher than what they were.
Yeah,
they're coming out. They're coming out. And they're people that are older. Dave Chappelle's older than us, I think. I don't know how old he is, but
he might be
younger. I don't know, but I mean, he grew up in a time when this was not talked about, wasn't known. I mean, there's going to be growing pains. And
Yeah.
I think he kind of talks about that a little bit to, the fact that, he didn't look at these people like they were trans. This was his friend, that hooked him up, did stuff. So he tried to hook him up, her up. And so, I mean, humor is always going to be a little bit edgy, is what it comes back to. I mean, I can't think of a great comic that isn't a little bit edgy at times. And the ones that really push the medium are going to be edgy. And it's hard for any of these. I suspect it's very hard for the people that do this for a living to find where the edge is. And when I say the edge, I mean you can be on the edge, but you don't want to step over the edge. So that's when you run afoul of whatever whatever you decide to step on. So you got to be careful. So he may have been a little bit. He may have been over the line a little bit, but for the most part, he was right on the edge. And that's where he needs to be. And that's where all these comedians that want to be great, greats are going to be edgy. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. And we have to, I mean, there are greater issues and problems. You know what I mean? And Dave Chappelle, I don't think is someone that needs to be canceled, because there are some comedians out there just saying straight up, or like people on Fox News saying straight up racist stuff. People out there doing racist stuff. People out there promoting evil and wrongness and stuff that was killing people, like don't get a vaccine. I mean, that's kind of stuff is killing people. So, there are other things than to take on a comics viewpoint without going and doing some research, learning, and talking to people. Within reason. I mean, look for a right moment. Don't just go up and bombard people and just start trying to, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, no. People got enough worries. You know what I mean? So there is a lot out there. And there's some things, look at it from both sides and talk about these things. And I think, Pat, you're exactly right. There are some growing pains. We need to allow people some grace to have evolved and changed. And we're going to find. But if they show themselves resistant to that and do things that are harmful to communities, then don't watch their stuff, don't buy their stuff. You're free to do that. So, that's what America's about discussion and thought. So, but it was a good special, provocative as always, And one thing about it, it's on everybody's lips. What could be better than that for a comedian,
Well, I know Bill Cosby was on everybody's lips for a little bit, and it wasn't that great. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother discussion.
I'm just saying.
And really a bad pun in there too, Pat.
I know. There is such a thing as bad publicity. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah. But he's Dave's at another level, right? Yeah. So he's gonna be okay. I worry about those coming up behind him and the Black trans community, that they don't face a backlash for some misguided views. Okay, so hey, Tim Windsor, he's here. Hey, good to see you again. We got a good streak going with our buddy Tim Windsor, so glad to see him. And everybody else out there, if you have opinions and thoughts, put it in the comments and subscribe to our channel. And let's take a look at the next show, which is Addams Family Values 2.
I have the very solution to the problem, cara mia. We'll take a family road trip.
What?
It would make a fascinating first chapter in my memoir. Can you imagine?
Uncle Fester, wait for the children.
Children? I thought we were having chicken.
Pat, what do you think about Addams Family Values?
You know, I always like. I just love it. I gotta tell you, it's so cute and it's just so. It's so counterculture, which is so nice at the same time. You know, I mean, it was a good family adventure. You're showing that family is more important. You know, it's so important, and at the same time, it's just full of great puns, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I loved it. Not gonna. I mean, I went and saw it in the movie theater, so there you go.
Oh,
Pam, I expect you not to like it, but let's move on. Okay.
Okay, so
I can hear.
I'm always give you a positive sandwich, which is the movie is beautiful. I mean, the animation is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. It was some things like the way they did the water and Niagara Falls. Oh my gosh. Or at the ocean. It looked like water. And it was just beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. And I just, for that's the only thing to say, because I thought the story was trash. And it just wasn't good. But I enjoyed watching it for the visual kind of treat that it was. David, what did you think?
Well, it was kind of Addams Family meets Vacation. So Mr. Gomez is Chevy Chase in that kind of deal. So I mean, I thought it was okay, but I think that some sitcoms from the 1960s maybe should stay there. I think there's obviously a utility of animation allows for things to continue. It was okay. I loved Cousin It, the way he looked.
Cool. Snoop Dogg did the voice, so that was pretty funny.
But and even the second live Addams movie, The Family Values, I thought was a little bit.
Oh, I love that one. I think
to me it should be I don't think it should be an animated story. And I thought it kind of crossed a line for me. It keep it in the 60s, keep it that sitcom show, that nice 60s, harmless, unoffensive way. That's what I like. I can't get a refund, but it was Lord knows I've seen a lot worse Mortal Kombat that we watched.
I didn't want to bring that up, but thanks. Yeah.
It always comes back to that. I mean, whatever. We saw something else that was pretty bad
last week. That was worse than Mortal Kombat. What was that?
I see it, but I think but my mind has intentionally erased the title.
Yeah.
So I'll never find it again. As I'm doing a search.
Well, Pat, what did you like on what about the story did you like? Because I had a problem with the story.
Well, the story was just, I mean, it was not an unfamiliar story. I mean, we've seen those kind of things, this baby switch to birth thing,
right.
Spoiler. But I enjoy the characters. I really enjoy all those characters. Mm-hmm. They work well together. I mean, obviously they fixed it. They have a good formula in the 60s. They came back. They kind of freshened it up for the 2020s. I enjoy the characters. I mean, the interplay. Fester being him. Wednesday and Pugsley. And the Catamia, Gomez and Morticia, just delightful stuff. I mean, it's fun. It's familiar to a certain extent. I do enjoy the characters, and Wednesday was just hilarious with her deadpan, everything is terrible, thing going on. It was fun. I enjoy the characters.
Okay. And I think kids would love it. I think, they would like it. It's kind of geared towards them. And it's a story you could take the family to. And but it's definitely sneak in the movie, kind of. After you paid for another one, sneak in to see this one. But yeah, that was Addams Family Value too. I think it gets a kind of a mixed review from us, but it's harmless, certainly harmless. Yeah. So, but not too scary either. So definitely for the kids or the kid at heart, check out Addams Family Values. Okay, the next one, not for kids. Mute on Netflix. Let's take a look.
There's major internal tissue damage. Leo will never be able to talk.
Arms dealers, cybernetics. If you want it, someone in there can supply it. Probably me.
If you haven't found her, it's probably because she's finally dumped you.
We're gonna celebrate. Grab your shit. We're going to the mall.
Who wants to start? David? Oh, so corny.
I'm always corny. I'm absolutely the cheesiest person you will ever be. Well, if you, hey, for Tim and everybody else that's watching home, if you've got your PJamma Life drinking board game with you, then you know it's time to pop the top, because I'll use the phrase, it was visually stunning.
Yes.
It was a great cast. And that's all true. Man, I like that, but I like my sci-fi without references to pedophiles. Call me old-fashioned. I just take, man, that just is, that MASH gone Clockwork Orange little subplot to the story. Because they really kind of mimic the MASH doctors, Hawkeye, and even to the martini glass. I mean, it was a Clockwork Orange of it. Other than that element of disturbing, it was a little tough to kind of get the full story.
Yeah.
But I couldn't look away.
Yeah.
I was transfixed.
Mm-hmm.
And that poor dude that was the Hobbit, I don't know what the heck character he was playing. I guess being, having most of his lines cut from The Rise of Skywalker was just too much, because that was crazy seeing him in that kabuki, ode to
the guy who's in the Umbrella
Academy. Isn't that?
The Umbrella Academy. He's the one in the second season who became like a Jesus character or something. That's the same.
Wow. Yes.
That's the same actor. Yeah.
But gory, weird, freaky, but like like walking through Berlin, I couldn't take my eyes off of some of the bizarreness of it. So it was actually worth my time.
Yeah.
But it was a weird thing, and a little too dark in places for me.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah. Pat, what'd you think?
Well, yeah, I'm going to go with what kind of echoes some of the things. It had a lot of elements of other movies, it felt like to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was I had a Blade Runner feel, but it was like a cleaner Blade Runner. Not as interesting Blade Runner.
Right.
There was things about it that were off-putting, obviously the pedophilia, but it was interesting to see Paul Rudd play against type.
Yeah,
because he was definitely playing against type.
Yeah.
I was thinking that Skarsgård, I can't remember his first name.
Yeah. This is
Alexander. I always think of him as Eric Northman because I watched True Blood back in the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice man.
Eric, he must have loved that movie because he only had to learn like 3 lines. for the whole damn thing. You know, run my lines. Just sit around and do nothing. But I saw characters I was glad to see again, like the one guy in the place where they were selling everything. It was Mickey from Doctor Who, and he was like one of my least favorite companions, but he showed up, and I was like, cool, you know. And it was visually interesting, but it wasn't stunning, I would say. I mean, there was things about it that were just, like I said, it was off-putting because I felt like they were trying to do that Blade Runner feel, but it was not as dirty and gritty like I like. You know, I like my science fiction. If you're gonna be dystopian, let's be dystopian. You know, go ahead and get into it and have it dirty, and you know. It was okay. I didn't feel like I lost 2 hours of my life to Mortal Kombat, so it was great comparatively.
Well, I think that it was the story was terrible. It was shit. But you know, I mean, it was gorgeous, like gorgeous. I mean, it was just like, oh, the eyes just had a feast. And then the ears had a problem. It was like, oh, what am I listening to? Oh, the whole pedophile storyline. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, why did you even bring that into this? It was just dumb. Now, I went and read up on it. Now, this story is by Duncan Jones, the son of David Jones, who you also might know as David Bowie. And so, you know, kind of quirky and weird, you know. But usually David Bowie had a lot of talent with it. And this guy, you could see some of the talent. But I think that it wasn't originally supposed to be set in the future. And so then they decided that they wanted to set it in the future in order to do some of the things that they're kind of doing in the story. So that's kind of, I think, where you got that disconnect. And if you notice, one of the characters was she was one of the Dora Milaje who was in Captain America. That was cool to see her. That was really against type.
Very Grace Jones feel to
her. What's her name? Florence Kumba, I think that's her name.
And I didn't know that she was a German national before I did the research on the show, which again with Berlin. But man, she looked amazing in that. Whatever the glitter stuff was,
yeah,
she was a lovely woman. But I thought in certain places they did some really nice things with costuming and such. And it was good to see her. I agree. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. And because I'm always looking for, damn, are the black people gonna be still around in the future? Because a lot of times you don't see us. And I'm like, but the story was just so difficult. I mean, it was trying to be a war. It was trying to be dystopian. It was trying to be, you know, talking about child trafficking. It was trying to be, you know, it was too much and not enough. And so, beautiful movie to visually watch, but stories shit. So, you know, but I mean, that it's just so gorgeous. And Alexander Skarsgård is gorgeous, and you know, these gorgeous people in it and gorgeous sets, but watch it, you know, kind of on a Saturday afternoon or something when you're not trying to think too much about something, or late at night you're trying to get to sleep. I don't know, just
well, you know, and we were just by coincidence too, Pam. We had just had, I think, the Nasser sentencing, the horrific Nasser part of the Olympics.
Yeah.
And when you see the cute little girl with the leg, a robotic leg, it just really hurt you. And
I mean, it was just, they could have just kicked that whole part of it out and just had these two friends who had, you know, gone, because here was the disconnect. He's an outlaw, you know, the Paul Rudd character is an outlaw, and then he meets up with the military police, and they just like, oh, Yeah, bro. Let's exchange some insults and we'll let you go. What?
Look, there were missing pieces there that you kind of had to
It's
know.
like, what? So this is when an editor is the most important person to a movie. The continuity of it would have flowed with a better editor. Oh, okay. Well, you got to come back because we got to talk about American Crime Story impeachment.
I'll do my best. I love it. I've got a dog emergency. I've got to take care of.
Okay. All right, let's take a look at the peak of American Crime Story impeachment.
I spoke with Janet Reno. It's official. Our jurisdiction has been broadened to include this matter of Monica Lewinsky.
Ah, great.
Ms. Lewinsky, we're agents with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, authorized by the Attorney General to investigate crimes committed in relation to the Paula Jones lawsuit.
Linda.
Perjury, obstruction of justice, subornation of perjury, witness tampering, and conspiracy. Ms. Lewinsky, you'll want to focus so that we can get to... Let's just get a handle on this. Close the doors.
The FBI has me. Ken Starr at...
Ken Starr? Where are you right now?
Pentagon City.
So how long was she and Clinton having this?
I don't know. I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on the fact that the FBI has my child.
I'll take over. The whole thing sounds fucking ridiculous anyway.
Really?
Absolutely. Federal prison for lying about an affair? In a civil case? I'd wager my AMG that nobody's ever been prosecuted for that in the whole history of the Republic.
Well, this episode was one of the best episodes because I remember being here when this happened. And I thought what was interesting was the shots of Pentagon City. And I think it was Pentagon City. But then they then laid down some new floor or did something so the floor was different, because now Pentagon City has a different floor, and because they remodeled. And so I was like, did they, or maybe another Simon Malls had that same kind of look. But, since it was shot here, I was like looking for stuff. Now that is the Ritz-Carlton sign, because the Ritz-Carlton is attached to Pentagon City. So, and that's the infamous hotel where a bunch of stuff went down anyway. But that scene of her walking around the mall, some of the stores are the same. And so it was really kind of, for a DC insider, I thought that was really kind of true. Now, where are my boys? Have disappeared. So you just gonna see me. Oh, there he is, my other DC insider.
I'm sorry, everybody. My dog's a little under the weather, so when I know he has to go, I have to go. So.
Yeah. And but I thought this was the pivotal episode that people remember about the Lewinsky cases. Her being in Pentagon City for like hours, leading them around, trying to, get them. But, it really showed how just terrible and illegal they treated her in that process, because there's no way that was legal, that they kept her for all that time. When she asked for a lawyer, she asked for her attorney, and they didn't let her go.
Right.
And they may say, well, she wasn't kept against her will, but of course she wasn't. There were people literally at the doors blocking her, in the hallways blocking her. And so that perception was totally wrong. They were dead ass wrong for doing that to her. And that's the part when my sympathy for the government falls to the wayside, because that was straight up illegal what they were doing to her.
And that's not an isolated example of this.
Right.
not one of the things that we've been watching for the show, but I watched a Comey thing on Netflix about, about Jim Comey, and the character for Comey. I'll bring this back quickly. The guy playing Comey, he had this speech about how great the FBI was and all the due diligence and everything that they do and the nobility. And I'm thinking J. Edgar Hoover and the taping and the blackmailing. And then and I thought of that when I was watching those scenes. When you have an American citizen who is being interrogated in a way, and you feel as if you're trapped, even if you're not. They can say, well, they could have left. Really, you don't feel like you can. The intimidation of that, the whole power of the United States government, all these individuals,
guys showing you their gun at their hip, and
all of that is intimidating. All of that is coercive, and it's not right. If that's the only way that you can get somebody, and again, I take perjury seriously. I think it's a slippery slope to where we are today with the government that we've just replaced. But the nature of how this was that this was prosecuted and the way people were treated in the pursuit of justice in this, shame on them. And I mean, again, here's an example of a woman being treated completely unfairly
and illegally. And against her civil rights.
Used throughout this process. I mean, and we can talk about consensual adults and this and that and the other, but her boss sexually harassed her. She might have liked it, but he harassed her. Could have been her father, maybe here and there, but she was being used and manipulated at every turn. The president, Linda Tripp, the government, the right-wing media out to get Clinton. It's just a horrific pawn and a great shame and scandal, as much as anything that took place during the government shutdown.
Yeah, and the fact that, it took her father's attorney. I mean, she said blatantly, I need to talk to my lawyer. Well, you can do that, but then they are right there in the phone. They're right there in the room. You don't have privacy. I mean, come on now. We all watch Law and Order for the past 25, 30 years. Once they say, I want my attorney, then the questioning and the thing has to stop because you've legally asserted your right, according, to a Miranda, and they didn't even Mirandize her. So that's my.
Well, they were playing the I didn't arrest you. We were just questioning you.
We
don't have to Mirandize you if we're actually arresting you.
Yeah. So once, that's why I love when the lawyer came on and cussed him out. Was like, is she under arrest? And asking her, do you have bracelets on? And okay, so get up and leave. Yeah. And that's exactly what you do, is get up and leave. But this is why Americans need to know their rights. Yep. And that, the government has to be careful about what they do, because this is it should have been against everything that the FBI stood for. But of course, in this zeal to get Bill Clinton, all that went out the window. Any kind of your basic, civil liberties went out the window. So
it's really par for the course, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah. And so that really was, they did a really good job of that, of showing her despair and her, suicidal, tendency in that moment, the manipulation and the just outright kind of sexist, outright sexism of even the name of it, prom night. Oh, I was like, y'all are just a bunch of disgusting people all together. So, but definitely it was a great episode. So definitely check that out.
Oh yeah.
It's
a great show for people who are too young to really remember it. It really, I think, brings up in a fairly historically accurate, as best as I can recall, kind of way, which I think is good. You don't always get that from these kind of docudramas, but it's good.
Yeah.
And it just really, really impressive performances. But it's a story that it can leave you angry. I've talked to people about it, and it's like this episode in particular angered a lot of people, men and women, who see the abuse of government here.
Yeah, yeah. And on that squeak, that will wrap it up for us. Next week, we have, it's so exciting for next week because next Thursday, Dune is out. So we are definitely going to cover Dune. It's on HBO Max and in theaters, and they definitely say go look at it in the theater because it ought to be pretty fantastic with the visuals. We're also going to check out for our Halloween movies Blackest Night on Amazon Prime, Spiral on I believe that's on Amazon Prime.
I think it's Amazon, yeah.
And Saw, the entry with Chris Rock in the Saw series, and Impeachment. And we'll see what's going on next week on that. So definitely come back, subscribe to our channel, PJamma Live. Subscribe and join us as we dig into these very interesting. It'll be sci-fi week pretty much next week. So take care. You guys want to say anything good night to the people?
Don't forget, fear is the mind killer. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you will after you watch Dune.
You're right. It is also the little death. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought something else was the little death.
No, fear is the mind killer. It is the little death. Yes.
That's right.
What
will really our Gom Jabbar be? That's the question, Pam. You got to decide.
Super excited to see Dune. I am going to have problems with it. I can already tell because I love the book that much. And I can tell you, I can already see. Well, you know, the dude wrote the book for a reason, so we'll see.
I mean, it's definitely going to be something to talk about.
Oh, I got an analogy for you next week. Don't worry, I ain't gonna spoil it. I already know the analogy about how things purists look at this stuff. Just saying. So we'll move on. Okay. But everybody go see some good stuff. There's lots of great stuff out right now. I'm gonna go see Time to Die tomorrow. So.
Oh, very good. And we hope to review that here soon. So definitely check us out next week on PJamma Live. Take care. Get your vaccine if you haven't already. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.